Hi, how are you doing? Welcome to Youth Spirit, brought to you by Pefasio Kimau Youth Online. I am your host, Shel Njogu. Today we are discussing sexual assault, but with a little bit of twist where we are focusing on the predators, on the sex perpetrators. And before we introduce the topic, I have a guest with me, Masi Wambua. Hi.
Hi, how are you? My name is Mercy Wambua. I am a psychologist, a resident psychologist at an institution that goes by the name Industrial Rehabilitation Center. It's along Bagadi Road, yes.
Okay,
Thanks
you're
for having me.
welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Uh, on the sexual sex perpetrators, I don't want to justify anyone. This show or this topic, we are not doing it to justify anyone. We are doing it for the purpose of educating and maybe helping someone to realize that they have a problem. Thinking of this topic, I thought of Zacchaeus, the tax collector, and during that time, people viewed the tax collectors as thieves. But I'm going to read for you Luke 19 verses 1 to 10. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, he has gone to be the guest of a sinner. But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. Jesus said to him, Today's salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. And that's literally what I want us to talk about, that even though this person has committed the injustice to someone, maybe they need some help, just that they don't know. To introduce that topic though, we'll first discuss the effects of rape on someone, like the antisocial personality disorder. Let's state that, if you know that.
Okay, so what most people do not understand is that sexual assault is a broader umbrella of violence that is perpetrated towards an individual sexually. So there's rape, there's groping. Groping refers to fondling, where you fondle with someone's sexual organs without their consent. There's even just touching someone without their consent. Yeah, there's date rape, there is rape within marital constraints, there's a variety of things. And so long as it is anything that is sexual and is intentional and it is without consent. Consent is the key here. And it has to be consent that is necessarily verbal, because verbal or something that you can prove that someone actually consented to it. It's not just going to someone, because you see, even there's child sexual abuse, where you can force a child to engage in sexual acts just to gratify yourself. That is also abuse. And interestingly, psychologically, sexual abuse is included in the diagnostic manual that we use to diagnose mental illnesses. It is a factor that is outside the existing mental condition, but it is actually seen as a of clinical importance when diagnosing someone.
What
Yeah.
does rape do to a person? What does
So
it do?
yeah.
Yeah.
So rape doesn't necessarily have to cause any injury, because there's the misconception that there has to be a physical injury actually bars people from reporting, because someone will say there's nothing on my body that shows that I was raped, so there's no point of me reporting it. But there could be, in some instances, there could be physical injury, but the most effects that are experienced by many people are the psychological effects. There is denial. Someone would be like, there's self-blame, and that's what I was telling you earlier, that especially when the perpetrator of the sexual act is a narcissist, they make you believe that it's your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. I raped you because you had a short skirt on. I raped you because you looked enticing, or you provoked me into doing it. But then here the question comes, what of the 8-month-old babies that are raped? What were
Yeah.
they wearing? How did they ask for it?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's also PTSD. PTSD is post-traumatic stress, where someone could just be sitting somewhere and they start re-experiencing that act, and then now it could lead to anxiety, provoking, or like there could be trembling, there could be other things that could show anxiety. There's also nightmares, especially this happens especially to children. Yeah, they could experience nightmares and just a variety of other psychological effects. There's loneliness, and the one that people ignore especially is the revenge desire, wanting to pay back.
Yeah.
There are people who keep to themselves when
Yeah.
they are raped. There are people who decide that they will not talk about it. There are people who now move from being extroverts to being very introverted and keeping to themselves. Then there are the people who decide it's up to me to
Yeah.
revenge.
Yeah.
It's up to me now. I've heard of stories where ladies have been raped and now they went around sleeping around just to make sure they've caused pain. Where you numb yourself,
Yeah.
and now you decide it's payback time to the men. There are people who actually behave like that.
Yeah, and today actually we are talking about the revenge. What incites or makes a person think that if I go assault this and this, because when they are revenging, you hear someone say that they are doing it to for just pay. They are doing it for payback without any attach. They don't care if you get hurt. They really don't care, and they don't get scared if they get hurt as well in that process.
Yeah.
What makes a person do that?
It's basically just the effect of the pain that a person goes through because of the rape. Rape is trauma. As in, it's trauma because, especially, imagine if it's rape from your father or it's rape from a brother. If it's rape by a stranger, it somehow is easy because you will not probably meet this person again or something. But if it's someone that there's a constant reminder, like children who are raped by their fathers and their fathers threaten to kill them. Now this child is struggling with the fear of dying. Then there's the effect of not speaking about it, because there's physical pain, especially
Yeah,
by rape,
yeah.
because rape involves some sort of physical struggle because you don't want this thing to be done to you. And so that kind of pain that comes from it, and the regret, and see the taking away of innocence, so that makes someone feel like now it's up to me to pay back. It's up to me to do this. And sometimes people even feel like I've watched another thing I didn't say about the effects of rape is that sometimes people end up having eating disorders.
Yes.
Yeah, someone may like turn to food as comfort, and then now they start suffering from obesity. And especially in the West, these things happen. When you look at these people who are struggling with lifestyle diseases like obesity, you realize that the backstory is that at some point there was assault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what makes that person who is performing the act, Why are they so aggressive that I'm going to kill you? Why do they say that after the act? They just turn around and they threaten you, or you hear, I'm going to kill you and your family. I'm going to do this and this if you tell it to someone. Why do they do that?
It's because at the back of their mind, they know what they're doing is wrong. I'll tell you something about perpetrators of sexual assault. Yeah, it is not every day that a man or a woman, because there are men who are molested, they may not speak about it, but it happens. It's not every day that someone just wakes up and decides, you know what, today I'm going to be a rapist, or today I'm going to molest someone.
It starts from the brain.
Yes. There are many studies that have been carried out that show, especially people who have personality disorders. There's a narcissistic personality disorder, there's an antisocial personality disorder, and especially an antisocial person. An antisocial personality disorder is someone who has absolutely no regard for anything. They have no regard for rules. They have no regard for what they're doing towards someone else, what that is doing to them. And the narcissist, as I said before, someone who feels that everything needs to go their way. And so anyone who refuses the advances, they take it as being rude or as a threat.
Yeah.
And so they feel that they actually need to do something about it. But especially people with attachment problems. Attachment is formed when between a child and their mother, especially. So there's secure attachment and then there's insecure attachment. I was telling Shel before that there could be 3 children who've wet their diapers, and the first child will have their mother run to their rescue, to their beck and call, and they change their diaper immediately. Then there could be the second child who has wet their diaper, and their mother will probably wait because maybe the current situation isn't good enough to change, and just maybe wait a little and change. And then there could be another child who wets their diaper and their parent lets them stay in that diaper the whole day, And so these 3 children develop 3 very different attachments. So the first child who had their mother change them immediately, it is a secure attachment, but now the problem comes in future where they seek immediate gratification. If I want something and I don't get it now, it's a problem.
Yeah. It's hard for them receiving a no.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they have to have it then. Now, if I want it now, I get it now. The second child is most probably to develop a better personality because they know you could need something now, but you may need to wait a little. Then the third one knows that nobody cares. It's like the world is like you have to fight for yourself. There's no one to do it for yourself. And so you see, these problems most of the time start from a very young age. There's also another thing about perpetrators of assault, people that they have a problem with the executive functioning. Our brain has different parts. So there's the frontal lobe, there's the occipital lobe. I'll not go much into the biology of it, but our frontal lobe is important in making executive functions, in like planning and making decisions and tailoring your behaviors to be acceptable by society. So people who have a problem with or who have damage to the temporal lobe, then it means that they do not exactly know or they do not care about what is right to society or not. And so these are the people who would rape and it's not a problem to them.
Yeah.
Then the other problem is the way we are a society that is patriarchal in nature.
Yeah.
Where men are believed to be the ones that can have anything that they want. Yeah, men are the ones that are suited for success. Women you are to be seen and not to be heard.
Yeah,
and so that then just says that men are allowed to do absolutely what they want, and also viewing women as objects of sex. And so you see, the fault especially is in the upbringing of a child who ends up becoming who will most probably become a perpetrator for sexual assault.
You said that the personality disorder, we had discussed this earlier, that they start from childhood. Any personality disorder you see?
Yes. The thing about personality disorders, in childhood, it's just considered a conduct disorder.
Yeah.
So when this person gets to 18 years of age, that is when now you can be diagnosed with a personality disorder.
Yeah.
Yeah. And personalities are very because it is an interplay of things, that many things biologically, the genes and the environment. These are things that are quite difficult to change, but doesn't mean that it cannot be changed.
Yeah. So let's talk about paraphilia. Are the most perpetrators, do they suffer from paraphilia?
Paraphilia is where the perpetrator performs the act against a child. Yeah. It has to be against a child. You know, there are people who, in fact, even in the diagnostic manual, there are sexual disorders. There's masochism, you know, the kind of person who wants or who enjoys when like pain is inflicted on them.
Yeah.
You know, there are people that are like that.
Yeah.
And then there is paraphilia, of course, which is abuse, sexual abuse towards children. There's exhibitionism, where people just feel or they get gratification from exposing their sexual organs. So there are many things. And for you can ask yourself, for sexual disorder to actually be considered a disorder in the same book as depression, in the same book as anxiety, it then just tells you that it's not exactly a normal quote-unquote person who perpetrates a sexual violence. Yeah.
So what of hypersexual desire disorder?
I don't think hypersexual desire is necessarily a disorder, not unless there is a problem in how a person is wired biologically.
Yeah.
There are people who are just like that, and most of the time it's because of a biological disorder or like a biological issue which can be fixed. Yeah.
Let's say, I'm sure you saw this or had these video that was going rounds on Twitter. Yes, someone was just in the streets at a bus station, and their video was going rounds where their private parts were all out and they were touching themselves.
Yeah, that's an exhibitionist.
Yeah.
Someone who gets gratification from showing their own sexual organs of fondling with them. They don't necessarily need to be actually involved with someone sexually, but they get that kind of gratification from, and that is definitely a disorder.
That's a disorder.
Yes.
And it's like he wasn't even aware of the surroundings.
Exactly, yes. And that's exactly why it's called a disorder. You know, a disorder is where like you move from the norm, from what society considers normal.
Yeah.
If it was normal, then everyone would walk into the streets and do the same. Yeah. But because there is a problem in how they are wired, especially their brain, then that just tells you that this person does not necessarily care about the repercussions of their actions. So long as they get the gratification there, that's it.
So is there a way, like, take us through a way of healing from anyone? Because even the perpetrators, they have something going on.
It's true.
So let's talk of the healing where where the person, obviously there is shame. I believe there is shame where if I can look at a person and all I can think of them, I'm just objectifying them. And let's say you're in a setting of a church, because we are in church. You're in a setting of church where you have these feelings where you look at a person and the only thing you can do to them is objectify them. Let's talk of shame, accepting that shame and addressing that shame.
So, especially victims of rape, the most important thing to realize is that it had nothing to do with you. Like, you're not raped because of how you're dressed. You're not raped because of how you handled yourself. The problem is the perpetrator. There's nothing wrong with you as a person. And so in realizing that, it's important that you seek help. Yeah. Look for someone you can talk to, but it has to be someone that will help you professionally. The problem of now just, some matters you don't just discuss with anyone. When you someone could actually now go outside there and make you a topic, and then now that damages even the more.
Yeah.
So seek help. There are organizations that you can actually even go to Nairobi Women's Hospital. They take in people who've been raped, Find a counselor who you can talk to, so that, because again, the thing is, if you do not deal with the emotional effects of rape, then it could end up being even worse. It could
Yeah.
lead to depression. There's suicide in depression.
Yeah.
There's so many things that could come out of not dealing with the effects. And also the perpetrators of sex, they need, and then you see, no one walks around knowing that I have a problem with my personality and all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's important also to psychoeducate people and let them know that sometimes when your behavior is very deviant from what is considered normal, then it's important for you to seek help.
Yeah.
Someone will come and tell you, I do this and I don't really understand why I do that.
Yeah.
So it's important just for people to know that it's an issue that needs to be talked about. Yeah.
But there is shame to it that I'm hurting people. I'm sexually violent to people. How do I even start with someone that I commit such injustices to people?
That's why I'm saying it's important to psychoeducate.
Yeah.
Let people know that there are people who do not even understand that what a personality is. There are people who don't understand.
Totally.
Because you see, most people who goes to see psychologists, everyone terms them as a mad person. Someone who's depressed is not mad. Someone with an anxiety disorder is not mad.
Yeah.
Seeking help, in fact, it requires a lot of strength to seek help.
Yeah.
So letting the society know that it's okay for someone to come out, because sometimes the fault is from the childhood. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Maybe that is how you were brought up.
Yeah.
And for that to be fixed, you have to speak about it.
Yeah. I think it's all about accepting.
Yes.
And now allowing your heart to be that of like Zacchaeus, I'm a thief, but I have this opportunity of changing. Will I take it or will I leave it? And I think it's also willing and accepting the fact that I'm still going to pay for what I've done.
And that's another thing that I feel that is lacking. The fact that legislations are not in place to show people that you're not going to go scot-free.
Yeah.
You will not rape someone, and we are going to put you in remand, and then you're going to sell some cows and bring the money and go away.
Yeah.
Let them know that this is a crime and actually act. Let these people who perform these acts, in fact, what they need to do before actually convicting this person, let them go through a psychiatric assessment or clinical assessment just to ascertain, because again, you cannot expect someone who has a personality disorder to pay for their mistakes. They don't understand what they've done wrong.
And also, you can imagine, let's say we have arrested this person because they have committed an injustice, but the thing is internal. You're just, you put them aside for a while, but that doesn't mean you're going to change.
Exactly. It doesn't fix the root of the problem.
What should be done, maybe the government and the part of psychologists and psychiatrists saying we can do something. I think for us to bring change to the society, I think we need to talk to these people instead of just putting them aside, and when they get out, they're still the same people who are going to commit the same crime again and again.
Yeah, it's just for the legislatures to be willing to work with psychologists.
Yeah.
Because you see, judgment or the legal system does not exactly take into consideration matters, personality, and such things. So just be willing to work with psychologists or psychiatrists to help. Because you see, if you get someone who's an alcoholic and you take them, for instance, to Madare, and they get the medication that they require, then you take this person back to the environment in which they were, they relapse.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. So if someone is a sexual offender, if they need to serve their jail term, work on their psychological health as well. so that once they come out of it, they've served their term, they've paid for their mistakes, but they've been corrected.
Yeah. And are there any institutions in Kenya where that support the healing of such people? Because I think they are also suffering. It's the hurt people. You're operating from a place of hurt,
It's true.
and you're hurting another person. Do you have such platforms in Kenya where that allows a room for healing?
What I know is that independent psychologists or independent organizations actually do the work of going to prisons or do the work of going to remands just to talk to these people.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure if there's an institution set exactly for
Yeah.
them to, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's it for this show. But before we end, give us your last words. Something you'd like us to know, maybe about the perpetrators or the rape victims.
Yeah. I just like to say that it's okay not to be okay. It's fine if you're feeling like you're at the end of the road, but don't give up. Don't be quiet about it, because silence, being quiet is actually doing something about something. If I don't call someone out, it just means that I'm actually encouraging them to continue with what they're doing. And if you're a rape victim, it's important that you come out so that you're able to heal and move forward. Yeah.
And sorry,
okay.
I think we continue just a little bit because you had touched on the power of silence. Tell us what silence means to such topics.
It's very interesting that at least each one of us knows someone that has been raped, but none of us know of a rapist. And that's because we are very key on maintaining friendships. We are very key on maintaining or protecting someone. If we were willing to call someone out for what they're doing, then that just tells us that this thing should go down.
Yeah.
But because you're keeping quiet because he's your brother, you're keeping quiet because he's your uncle,
Yeah.
it's just causing this it's a breeding ground that's encouraging this to happen.
Yeah.
So it's important to break the silence.
Yeah. And I think we need to, what people don't understand, I'd said that we are concluding, but what people don't understand is the separation from separating the act from a person.
Yes.
Because if it's a personality disorder, it means that you can take away that personality.
Yes.
And you're not taking away the humanity from them. It's just the disorder.
Yes.
I think people need to understand that so that we stop hiding those people and instead help them.
True.
Instead, just call them out and say, okay, what you did, it's bad. You need to pay for it. And also you need to seek help.
That's true.
So I think that's it for today. Learn to separate the act from a person. Calling out a person, you're not calling out on them. You're just calling out the act that they did. You're not condemning them. You're just trying to convict their soul for them to just allow change to happen. Because I think if we need change, then the change should start from us. And thank you for gracing us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's it for this show. And if you need any kind of help, make sure you send us an email, pefasiokimauYouth@gmail.com. Also follow us on our social media platforms at pefasiokimauYouth on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Obviously, you're on YouTube. And thank you for watching this show. And I hope that we are starting a discussion that you are going to pass on to your friends and family. So that's it for today. Till next week. Bye.